Hello, my friends. Welcome to Timeless English. I'm very happy you're here with me today. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you are doing well. Now, take a moment to get comfortable. Relax your mind. Put aside the worries of the day. And let's travel into history together. Today's journey takes us across the cold waters of the Atlantic Ocean. To a ship unlike any the world had ever seen. A ship built with enormous dreams. A ship filled with hope. And a ship that would become one of the most famous tragedies in history. Before we begin, if you enjoy learning English through powerful stories from history, please consider subscribing to Timeless English. There are many more journeys waiting for you here. And now, close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. You are standing on the deck of a magnificent ship. The night air is cool. The ocean stretches endlessly around you. Above, thousands of stars shine in the darkness. The engines hum softly beneath your feet. People laugh nearby. A band plays cheerful music. Everything feels peaceful. Everything feels safe. You are sailing aboard the largest ship ever built. A ship many people believe can never sink. And yet, just a few hours from now, the music will stop. The lights will fade. And more than 1,500 people will lose their lives in the freezing Atlantic Ocean. How could this happen? How could the most advanced ship in the world disappear beneath the sea on its very first voyage? And what were the final moments of the people on board? Stay with me. Because today, we are going to discover one of the most unforgettable stories in human history. This is the story of Titanic. And it begins long before the ship ever touched the water. The early years of the 20th century were a time of great confidence. Technology was changing the world. Cities were growing. Machines were becoming more powerful. People believed the future would be brighter than ever before. And in this atmosphere of optimism, a bold idea was born. A shipping company called White Star Line wanted to build the greatest passenger ship the world had ever seen. Not just large. Not just fast. The greatest. A ship that would amaze everyone who saw it. A ship that would become a symbol of human progress. Engineers and designers worked for years on the project. Every detail was carefully planned. Every challenge was studied. And slowly, piece by piece, Titanic began to take shape. But no one could imagine where this dream would eventually lead. Because the larger the dream became, the greater the tragedy would be. In Belfast, Ireland, thousands of workers gathered in enormous shipyards. Day after day, they worked with steel, rivets, and heavy machinery. The ship growing before them seemed almost impossible. Titanic was unlike anything people had ever seen. She was longer than many city streets. Her massive engines were among the largest ever built. Her grand staircase looked more like something from a palace than a ship. Newspapers wrote about her. People traveled just to see her construction. Many believed she represented the future itself. And as Titanic grew larger and larger, so did the world's expectations. People began calling her unsinkable. It sounded impressive. It sounded comforting. But history often teaches us an important lesson. Confidence can sometimes become overconfidence. And that lesson was waiting just beyond the horizon. Finally, the great day arrived. April 10th, 1912. Titanic was ready. Passengers began boarding in Southampton, England. They came from different countries, different backgrounds, different walks of life. Some were among the richest people in the world. Businessmen, millionaires, members of famous families. Others were immigrants, ordinary men and women searching for a better future in America. Some carried expensive luggage. Others carried only a small suitcase. But all of them shared one thing: hope. They believed a new chapter of life was beginning. Children explored the ship with excitement. Parents admired the luxurious rooms. Passengers gathered on deck to wave goodbye. No one knew they were stepping into history. And no one knew that many of them would never see land again. At first, everything seemed perfect. The ship sailed smoothly across the Atlantic. The ocean was calm. The weather was clear. Passengers enjoyed elegant dinners. Musicians played beautiful music. Friends gathered in lounges and dining rooms. For wealthy travelers, Titanic felt like a floating palace. Even passengers in third class often found the ship impressive. There was laughter, conversation, music, dreams of the future. And with every passing day, confidence grew. The voyage appeared effortless. But while passengers enjoyed their journey, warnings were arriving. Warnings from ships ahead. Warnings about something hidden in the darkness. Something cold. Something dangerous. Something waiting. As Titanic moved westward, radio operators received messages from other ships. The messages were simple. Icebergs ahead. Dangerous ice fields. Proceed carefully. The warnings continued throughout the day. Some were delivered. Some were delayed. Some received little attention. After all, Titanic seemed unstoppable. Its size inspired confidence. Its reputation inspired confidence. Everything inspired confidence. But nature does not care about reputation. Nature does not care about confidence. And on the night of April 14, 1912, Titanic sailed deeper into waters filled with ice. The sea was unusually calm. The night was unusually dark. And ahead, floating silently in the blackness, an iceberg waited. The clock moved toward midnight. Most passengers were asleep. Others relaxed in lounges or cabins. The stars shone brightly overhead. The ocean looked peaceful. Then, suddenly, a lookout spotted something ahead. A dark shape. A wall of ice. Straight ahead. He immediately sounded the warning bell. 3 sharp rings. Danger. The crew reacted quickly. Orders were shouted. The ship began to turn. But Titanic was enormous. And enormous things cannot change direction instantly. Seconds passed. The iceberg grew larger. Closer. Closer. And then, impact. Not a huge crash. Not an explosion. Just a long scraping sound against the side of the ship. Many passengers barely noticed. But beneath the surface, disaster had already begun. And there was no way to stop it. Water rushed into the damaged compartments. Engineers examined the situation. Soon, they reached a terrifying conclusion. Titanic would sink. At first, many people refused to believe it. How could the unsinkable ship sink? It seemed impossible. But the cold facts were undeniable. The ship was dying. Crew members began preparing lifeboats. Passengers were told to come on deck. Women and children first. Still, many people remained calm. Some even laughed. Some returned to their cabins. They believed everything would be fine. But as the ship slowly tilted, reality became impossible to ignore. Fear began spreading through the crowd. And time was running out. The night became colder. The ship tilted further. Lifeboats lowered into the darkness below. Families faced heartbreaking decisions. Husbands said goodbye to wives. Parents held their children close. Friends embraced for the final time. Meanwhile, the musicians continued playing. Even as the situation worsened. Even as the ship slowly disappeared beneath them. Their music brought comfort. Their courage inspired others. Hour after hour, Titanic sank deeper into the sea. And then, in the early hours of April 15, 1912, the impossible happened. The great ship broke apart. Moments later, Titanic vanished beneath the Atlantic Ocean. The sea became silent once more. But hundreds of people were now trapped in freezing water. And for many, rescue would come too late. Rescue arrived hours later. The ship Carpathia reached the scene and began taking survivors aboard. Many people were saved. But many more were lost. Families searched desperately for loved ones. Names were called. Questions were asked. And heartbreaking answers followed. The world was shocked. Newspapers everywhere reported the disaster. People struggled to understand how such a tragedy could happen. The ship that had seemed invincible was gone. But the story was not over. Because Titanic would continue teaching lessons for generations to come. In the years that followed, important changes were made. New safety rules were introduced. More lifeboats became mandatory. Ice patrols monitored dangerous waters. Maritime communication improved. Lives would be saved because of lessons learned from Titanic. More than a century has passed since that cold April night. Yet people still remember. Books have been written. Movies have been made. Researchers continue exploring the wreck beneath the ocean. Why? Because Titanic is more than a ship. It is a human story. A story of hope. A story of courage. A story of ambition. And a story of loss. And so, my friends, we come to the end of Titanic's journey. But what can we learn from this remarkable story? Perhaps it reminds us that no matter how advanced we become, we should never underestimate nature. Perhaps it reminds us that confidence is valuable, but humility is essential. And perhaps it reminds us of something even deeper. In the face of uncertainty, ordinary people can show extraordinary courage. The passengers of Titanic came from different countries. Different backgrounds. Different lives. Yet in their final hours, many displayed kindness, bravery, and love. And that is what people remember most. Not the steel. Not the engines. Not the luxury. The people. And maybe you are on your own journey right now. Perhaps you are learning English. Perhaps some days feel difficult. Progress may seem slow. But every story you listen to is a step forward. Every new word is progress. Every lesson matters. Keep going. You are doing better than you think. Thank you for joining me on this journey through history. Now I would love to hear from you. If you had been aboard Titanic, what do you think would have been going through your mind during those final hours? Leave your answer in the comments below. Until next time, my friends. Take care of yourselves. Keep learning. Keep growing. And never stop being curious about the stories that shaped our world.